Just to give a little bit of a rundown of what sort of JP gave a brief on, and then I will take you through the stuff. Um, so if we take how things started in the AI landscape, the introduction of agents really sort of changed when, well, yeah, changed the whole sort of landscape where we could now start feeding in workflows and things like that, where we could get agents to do work on our behalf. And that was getting pretty good, and we're getting pretty good results in that until someone like Anthropic came along and released a new framework called an open source framework called MCP, and uh, and that was it. It gave agents sort of a governed real way access to systems that you could code. It was glorified APIs with a lot of extra little sauce in there as well to make them work very well. And yeah, they really that once again changed the landscape drastically in that, but did find out, or as things go on and as things are tested, only certain quality was only ever sort of achieved with agents and tools alone until someone introduced skills into the mix. And then with that sort of combination, it really became very, very impressive with what you could do with AI agents, with MCPs, and then skills together. So being able to um, let the agent know how to actually use the tools themselves, or how to work with an environment and that. And so with Raptor, we ship a whole bunch of skills included with the MCP that then helps and aids in the development or insights or any further uh, sort of administration on the Qlik estate. You can use those skills, but the beauty of skills is that you can also create your own. You can create, skills for your department. If there's a particular way that you need certain things created or built in the Qlik apps, or you have a certain standard when it comes to IFRS or anything like that. So standards, you can go and research with an AI agent and then get them to create a skill that's linked with your Qlik environment, so that now it goes and applies that skill to your necessary applications or for the insights itself. And yeah, so with Raptor, we bring all of those together. What we do also, like JP said, offer is Qlik view migration and PBI migration as well. But probably the big thing is this enterprise MCP gateway that we do offer and install. So it's completely on-premise. The MCP actually, yeah, sits in your network. Ideally, it can sit with your Qlik Sense server or next to it, as long as it can read it. And then therefore, all the queries are now within inside your network with your governed tools. And AI tools, Copilot, all of those things. Now obviously they can talk into your internal networks. So then those agents can then interact with this MCP and then work on or interact on your behalf then. So yeah, there is a Qlik MCP, but it is only for cloud. And it is also only for front end. So it can create front end visualizations and that, and explain and give answers in that. But from our side, we support both Qlik Cloud on-premise, and then we do the whole Qlik View migration. We go from the ground up, so from scripts all the way to reloads, QVDs, integration with the advanced analytics as well. And then, of course, we've got the on-premise MCP gateway from that side. So, and there are many things, and hopefully things that I will open your eyes in terms of how you could think, or how you could change your way that you would now work with something like Qlik and AI, because it really can evolve how you work and what you need to do. So there are many different things that we can do, and I'm going to give you just some of the things that I do, but there are, of course, many more things that one can do as well. But just to give sort of examples, like the delivery cycle, what is great is with your data connection in Qlik, So if it's connected to your data source, then you can now with Raptor or with your agent and Raptor say, go and analyze that data source for me. Go pull all the tables, leave out the unnecessary tables, go identify them. What's the classifications? Are they integers? Are they text fields? How do we associate this in Qlik? What's logical? What fields can we leave out? So you can have these proper, fast-paced discussions on your data itself without waiting for, hours, minutes, whatever the case is, for any development that even needs to be done. Now you can literally ask these questions in real time and have these things built. So yeah, so let me get through to showing you the example. So I'm going to show you a sort of like, hopefully this is a demo. So may the demo gods bless me on this, because I'm going to show you a three-part demo, and it's going to be a live demo as well. So I'm going to start off with my favorite tool. It's Codex, and yeah, so Codex is OpenAI's ChatGPT. Don't know what the feeling is amongst all the stuff, but Codex for me is a fantastic tool, and the agent behind it gets the job done when I need it to do. So I'm going to show you as like a developer. So think of this now, I'm coming in as a Qlik developer or a Qlik admin. You would, you need a little bit more access from a system perspective. You're going to be doing a little bit more stuff around than what a light user or, sorry, like a power user or what a end user would be doing. So in this instance, like I said, with the discussions that you can have, I started documentation around this. I got my AI agent to go and identify my data source. I have a demo that I'm putting together, so I've created this for this demo specifically, where I've gone and asked it to now generate a specification for me, which it has. We've gone through all the steps in terms of identifying the QVDs that are necessary, how to link the stuff, all the sort of validation apps that we've had there, what sheets are we're looking for, the measures that we're looking for in terms of master measures, master dimensions, visual requirements that we might have, or any nuances that we can pick up in the data, anything then around the advanced analytics stuff. So what sort of models could we look in place? So looking at an HDB scan for clustering, and then any guardrails that we need to pay attention to. But I think my example here is in my normal demos, I'd really just show something so simple where I would say, look at this data source, build me a sales application, which obviously it can do. But I think, in this case, this is a little bit more of a real world example that I would apply, especially in an enterprise situation where you would do these sort of proper plannings where you would put together the documentation, everything like that, and there afterwards now you're using your agent to help you with that, where now I can literally give it a prompt, where it says, we've got this demo instance, go read the specs, we're going to build an app, this is what it's called, use the reviewed load scripts that we've got just as examples, things that you need to keep important, don't remove certain things, don't load raw QVDs, if there's any nuances that you pick up, how to work with them, how to work with the sheets, and what we're looking for. And in the end, when you're done, what do I want? And sure, I'm looking for a one-shot prompt here, which I can do, but we can also have a conversation around this. But because I have the documentation ready and for it to go, so I'm just going to kick it off and let it do its job. And what I love with these sort of tools now these days is, being able to look and see what is the agent doing, what is it busy with. And it really does help because sometimes you can pick up little nuances that it might have identified, or you can also see that it might be being nudged off or going in an incorrect path because you might have forgotten a particular nuance out of the whole system. So, these things happen. I've built applications where I started and then in the middle I'm like, oh yeah, right. I'm sorry, I forgot. There was a where clause that we needed for this particular table for it to work, and then off it would go and do its thing. So and fix that. Um, So yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do and see and then guide it from there and push it down the correct direction. And here we can see that it's, getting to list the applications. Okay. We're busy generating an application now as well.
Jace, the initial prompt you fed it, that was also generated by the AI?
Yes, sorry.
Perhaps?
I did use the AI to generate the prompt for me initially as well. So that is also a great way to ensure your outputs can be even better because there's lots of nuance that it can pick up to run that from there. So yes, I did use it. That is how I built my spec. While this is busy running, we can leave it on the side there, and I can just show you if I go browse files. Okay, so just to go through a little bit. So, for example, I created a README with a demo thesis around it. How are we going to go? We're going to go from Codex, where we are now. We're going to move over to Cloud Desktop, and then over to Copilot slash Teams, where I'm going to show you that interaction there. Yeah, so all these things that we can define in here, what it needs to look at. And then I did go through the spec for you, but now we're going to from the generator side, already from there. We can do the app templates as well. This doesn't need to exist, but but this is just an example of what is a great process to do in an enterprise when you're actually working now with Qlik and what you can do with Qlik and also then Raptor with an agent with Raptor. If you think about now from this is you developing from data source all the way up to the application. You could have a QVD layer in between. You could have multiple QVD layers in between. You could have QVD marts. But these are no longer roadblockers anymore because these are much faster things to build now. These don't take weeks and months anymore. These take literally minutes and hours to set up entire architectural environments when it comes to QVDs. If you do the documentation correctly in that, then from there you're building your application, and now once your application is built, you can literally ask your AI agent there afterwards, okay, generate me a specification now, or like a handover documentation for this application. And now you have a handover doc or a sign-off doc or whatever the case is that you can now, and it's all grounded within the application. So the actual, where it's coming from, the actual data. It's not sitting in some arbitrary system somewhere. It's coming from where the source is. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think, another thing while we wait here is, like we've been saying, Qlik is a fantastic tool for AI, and AI obviously loves data, and it loves to get the job done for you as well. And it's very, very willing to always get the job done for you. But when you take a normal instance of a user running Claude code, and you know, you would usually say I have a bunch of Excel files connected together, in my folders here, and I get my Claude code to go and scan that stuff and everything like that. It can work for small instances. Anything a little bit more, it gets a bit heavy, and so then after a while, if you start getting more and more files in there, the context starts increasing drastically. And then you get context bloat, and then that's where you start getting hallucinations and things like that. Where now, when you're using something like Qlik, where it's got the associative engine behind it and the data model, where now you're looking at selections of data, you're not having to look at a full set of data and then the AI has to reduce it down before it even takes a peek at it. It can already just look at that selection set of data that it needs to then satisfy the query that you're going from there. And then the best part is, yes, when you start seeing things like this, where if it hits a little bit of a network connection, where it can kind of fix itself from little wobbles, which is really cool. So um, yeah, so then the prompts that we're going through, any metadata, and then like the QVD architecture that I just wanted to go through here as well. So this should be finishing up shortly, or soonish we can start going to the app because we've got some master items built in there now. 15 measures 24 dimensions from the spec. Okay, so it's going to do the 7 sheets then within the calendar, and then we'll look at the advanced analytics stuff. So hopefully a few more minutes. How long have we been running here? For 6 minutes. Okay, cool. My guess is on 10 minutes and we should be done. But anyway, are there any questions at all while we just wait for this in the
Yeah.
meantime?
Maybe talk us through if there's no other hands, apologies. Talk us through the process and the nuances around Qlik View to Qlik Sense migration. I mean, we have 700 apps over there. We did a POC for one of our customers, so Jace can also, well, two of our customers, so Jace can also talk around those and the
Sure.
complex apps. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah,
Qlik
so sorry, say again.
Qlik View was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, look, ClickView was fantastic from that side of things of that you could design anything that you wanted, and then people really lost their minds when Qlik Sense came along and they were told that they have to fit in a box, and they didn't want to fit in that box anymore. Or they didn't want to fit in that box, and then until eventually where Qlik did give in. It did take a while, but you can now in some of the in the one of the later releases of Qlik Sense on-prem, you can now use what they call a SN layout container, which allows you to sort of mimic those Qlik View days where you could design objects to be in pixel perfect size, so buttons and where they needed to sit, and if they needed to layer on top of each other, so if there were show hide conditions based off of selection, so if you wanted to have 10 sheets and then you wanted to have your show hide buttons and that, you can do it again in Qlik Sense. But yeah, so with the migration, so Qlik updated their process for it. And what we do with the AI agent and Raptor itself is we take that, and or should I say what we've been able to do is we had a POC with a customer. They had 208 Qlik View applications, 52 were ETL applications, and the rest were then all front-end applications. And we managed to migrate them from Qlik View apps to Qlik Sense QVF files in 68 minutes. So it's converting it in that. That's great. So you get it all over. You get pretty much most of the nuances out and everything like that. Your script moved over. The front end mimics very much, I would say, between 80 to 95% of what the Qlik View front end worked out to be. There'll be things that you have to move around in that. One of the bigger things, well, it was one of the bigger things, it's no longer, is the having to just update the data connections. But that's exactly where Raptor comes into play. At that same time, you're giving the what the new data connections names are, what were they in Qlik View, and you just give it to Raptor and say, please go update the applications where you find these. It's no longer having to go into every single application to to go check and update the data connection. Or how about this, updating a variable on variable number 48 with a double quote instead of a single quote now in all 192 applications. Now doing that as a user is a nightmare. Being able to now give that to an agent and let Raptor or let it use Raptor to do that on your behalf, yeah, it can get things like that done in 5 minutes. So that's the true sort of power of it. But then it's not just about I would say the blanket migration. I would take it a little bit further. So if you have, in this case, like 750 Qlik View applications, sure, I would migrate all of them to Qlik Sense, update all the data connections, and make sure that they're all reloading and functioning in that. But then there afterwards, now I would go with a Codex or a Claude Desktop, a powerful agent with Raptor, and now go analyze those applications. You know, what apps could you now, for example, combine? What apps do you even need anymore? You know, what's the analysis in them? Maybe there's like 10 apps that kind of all talk the same language and information with just different headings in the titles and things like that. So yeah, so then you sorry, I got a little bit flustered because it got finished there. But anyway, so you could do things like that now, where you could now afterwards, rather than now just converting all 750, have a proper conversation around that 750 application, classify them, document them, and then get your agent and Raptor to start rebuilding the groupings, you know, or the updates, and you know, maybe even updating the visualizations and that, which then you can as a developer afterwards go and tweak and things like that. So yeah, so here we go. Built and validated. We've got our app. We've got our link. I'm just going to copy this link here. We've got our reload results. We've got our sheets created. Cool. Master items. We've got our row counts, a little bit of validation around there. Fantastic. We've got no synthetic keys. We've got no island tables. We've got our calendar in there. Okay, we've got our advanced analytics running. We've got our validation checks there. And then lastly, we asked for a sort of Claude desktop handoff. Here we go. We have our Claude desktop handoff. So now, while we open up, my next prompt is going to be this. So now I'm going to say, okay. So now publish this app, right, to the stream that we have. And then obviously before you're doing, so just also showing that you can do governance around this and get it to do and give you, so do some checks, make sure before you're publishing that everything is working pretty well. So I'll get that one to do its thing. Let me open up my little side panel here. And hopefully the web browser is working here. That's what I like about Codex as well, where I can have a browser window open, you know, so I can have my Qlik app open here. And here we go. So here I've got my application and that, where you know I've got now an executive command. I've got my filters on top. We're looking at open receivable exposure, overdue exposure, net liquidity. I've got my aging buckets here and that. And then, you know, I've got my exposure overdue 90-day, my risk bands that I have here. But these are all elements that it's decided to create here. But maybe before I even jump the gun here, let me move over to the data load editor so that you don't think I'm talking absolute nonsense here. Sorry, there's a bug with Teams. Every time I share my screen, my mouse becomes like ice skating. But yeah, so here's our script. It's set up its different um, things that it needed to get the stuff done. We've got our marts here that it's loaded in as raw. It's created some auto number hashes to create some links in that. It's identified how it needs to filter out the data in that. It's picked up where it's needed to create age buckets, where it's identified from that data as well when we had our discussion. So it's created these buckets in the script for me as well, so we can analyze the information, more bank transaction type matchings. Yeah, so all of this information that's gone and now added for me in here, and reloaded basically. So I've not had to do anything. Now I'm able to come to the application, analyze the information in here itself. Maybe if I zoom out a little bit more, now it's about there. You know, now I can come analyze this information, and from here I can now have further discussions. You see, there's that grid chart again. But this is also great. Oh, sorry, there's a hand. I didn't see. You can ask. So in this instance that I'm showing you right now, there doesn't exist a ClickView application in the background. So I'm actually starting from fresh scratch financial data that I've sourced, able to build these demo applications from it. But yes, to answer your question from a Qlik perspective or from that side of Qlik, is it is a process that you would work with your agent, right? So usually if you are looking for the sort of exact look and feel as the Qlik application, you'll take a screenshot, right, of the Qlik
Mm.
application, and you'll say that to the agent, this is what the dashboard sheet looks like. I want to keep this layout, but maybe let's move something around like that. But the thing, even so, that during that migration process, you'll find that it does a very surprisingly good job of that migrating old Qlik View layout to Qlik Sense using this new layout container method option that then just requires you to, there might be some objects that layer on top of each other that requires a little bit of adjustment and things like that. I have tried my utmost best to get sort of what do you call it, an AI agent to go and update, but it is also very subjective. So it requires a human eye with sometimes with visuals and that. On the PBI side, same thing. Take a screenshot and then you give it. You go with the MCP tool and you say, "Can you please migrate this?" And it will try and match it like for like that it can as best as possible. And then you as a user would just require to maybe come and edit the sheet and move things around then there afterwards. So I added a tool into Raptor, and Qlik has always had this functionality, what they called extensions. But the problem is that as soon as you mention the word extensions, people are like, okay, that's a nightmare. When was it last updated? Who's maintaining it? Et cetera, et cetera. And then there were the third-party extension providers. They offer amazing extensions and things like that. But I was going to show some point in the demo here, but let me just navigate to over here. So I have an example, and we'll give it a try. Is so you can come to a website like eCharts, for example. They have an absolute myriad of objects that you can have a look at and possibly use. And now what you would then do afterwards is you would come into uh, opening up that example here. You would copy the code, take a screenshot of this here, and then let's see. I just want to see fix the chart working and broken was created. Yeah, because sorry, my no created a pivot table. I want to I want to come to this one and take a screenshot. And I'll move over to to Claude Code afterwards just to speed up the demo. But anyway, so let's go. Thanks. Uh, can you replace the aging buckets funding gap with the uh, charts example attached? Okay, I have this one here. And the code somewhere. So then let me go back to the website, copy the code, and paste. Okay. So what I built into Raptor is a tool for it to be able to work with these to work with extensions now. So for if you have a decent enough LLM model that you're using or working with, like a GPT 5.5 or a Claude Sonnet 4.6, so on and so forth, they produce pretty good results. from these. So it would go and now construct that JavaScript object in the correct files that it needs to be for Qlik itself to understand that extension, and then upload it and then replace it. And then you can use now your agent in Raptor to update it, make tweaks. I'm not going to say that on the first go it's going to work perfectly, so that you might pick up that it's not doing a color code, and then you can say, okay, the color coding is not working or things like that. So it might be a little bit of a back and forth iteration, but now you could literally have any object that you want in Qlik. You're not limited anymore. And also the last thing, because it's an extension object, it's actually just a JavaScript. It's just JavaScript.
Mm.
What that means is you can, in essence, you can take a Qlik sheet or a Qlik application and turn it into a system. Because now you could say, okay, I want a button that triggers an action to send a report to the team based off of certain criteria, right? It doesn't have to exist in Qlik at all. You can get your agent to build those objects for you that what you need them to do, and go from there. Do you need write back? You can get it to create a write back object that's connected to a SharePoint instance, so that now you can just update the information in Qlik, and when you hit save, it will know to go and reload the application and fetch the latest information. So if you're doing what if forecasting, so forecast analysis, those sort of things, these are now things that you can build, yourself while talking to your agent. And then we do have the skills that are also that are there to help to try and make sure that the process does work and you get a successful output. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I just don't want to mess anything at the moment now, but there's actually a lot of stuff that you can do now. So for example, this whole heading piece here can be hidden. There's templating that you can do if you want color coding specifically in that.
Mm.
So there's so much more customizability now. So you don't even have to have, certain things here, and you can replace them with that. So knowledge, because it's JavaScript. So unfortunately, it's not just I can grab it from the website and put it into Qlik Sense and it's going to work straight away. There is a whole bunch of development, and then it packages it into an extension file, and then there afterwards, what do you call it? The Qlik Sense can then use that extension there afterwards. So with Raptor, we just try and simplify the process, improve it, to make it a lot faster to be able to onboard these objects that you want to try and use in that.
Yeah, we had a war story about that one about 2 years ago, Jace, where another bank had one of these also developed by a guy. Literally, it was 10 or 12 years ago. It worked all that time in in ClickView and ClickSense, and then it just stopped literally 2 days before their internal audits, and they needed it, so they called us in. JC did he's all-nighter and fixed it. But now you can do it all with AI. Yes, I mean it it codes for you.
Pretty much. Look at that. Sorry. So I didn't mean to shout in the microphone. I was just actually chuffed that it did that.
Right.
There we go. So yeah, so okay, I am very happy that I did it on the first shot. Then obviously from here now you can go back and forth and say, okay, I don't like the color coding, or whatever the other parameters that you want driven in this extension object, particularly here. So yeah, so you can use these custom objects. What I was looking at keeping cognizant of time, and wanted to kick off the Claude process here, with the same sort of demo. So now I'm in a Claude desktop, using Cowork, also connected to the same MCP server that I'm connected in Codex, and asking it now more of a power user question, where I would ask it to go and have a look at the application, sharpen the sheet titles and description, add or refine KPIs for overdue exposure, and then also update one of the charts, and then verify some other information. So now I'm using a different client to go and do this sort of power user type work for me, um, to act on what you call it, on my behalf as well now outside of Codex. And then the last thing being is I'm going to move over to Copilot just quickly to end off the demo here. Just keeping an eye on time. So in Copilot or Copilot Studio, should I say, you can create an agent, and that agent then you connect to whichever LLM model that you have access to on your tenant or with your license. And of course, it wanted to refresh right here. Then, so yeah, you give it what model you want it to use or what it has access to. Like I said, frontier models. As long as there's a frontier model, it does an absolutely fantastic job in terms of what's possible. Then you can give instructions. So these instructions come with all the plugins that we offer. So all the different Raptors. So instructions are very key as well. It guides the agent in sort of understanding beforehand what it's capable of doing. And there's a long discussion we can have around that as well. What's possible and what you can do. So you can make them very specific for your team and things like that. There afterwards, you connect to that MCP server that is deployed on your network. Okay. You connect that agent to it. I did give an example in the previous demo is that you could have multiple agents now where you could have a Raptor Insights user or Insights agent where that's assigned to users who are only going to ask the how is the sales happening or how are sales going in this department? Are we improving customer throughput over here? You know, those sort of questions and that. Then you could have a Raptor power agent, which now can create sheet objects, do a little bit more, create some stories, things like that. And then you've got an admin or a developer agent. So you can even split the sort of agents across that people can use. But either way, each way, you build your agent, you publish your agent, and then you can also define the channels. And in this instance, it's Microsoft 365 and Teams. So now in your Copilot that you would see on your network, if you went to, I guess, the Copilot place, you would see now a Raptor agent available. Or we will go and ask this question from Teams. Come back, mouse. Okay. Oh, this is painful. Okay, where is Raptor? And exactly like you've seen all the other places. So now I can come here and say, um, same sort of like kind of more of a bit of a prompt where, you know, it's a little bit high level. So which counterparties in the client groups are finance chase first, values overdue, things like that you can ask. And from here, it's going to ask me to go and just validate my connection. So this is so every connection is authenticated to a user. So there's a particular key that we get them to generate with Raptor and that. I won't show it now in the demo because we are running out of time. But either which way, it's required for you to connect there afterwards. Now you can just say retry once every day. It's to
Ah,
authenticate you as a user with Microsoft even as well. So it's
okay. So this,
between
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's to ensure who you are, who's making the request and that. So what we are working on, I can't say when it will be available, but there are things that we're testing where we're able to link if the Qlik estate is set up in a certain manner. Then you're able to link that Qlik user all the way up to your Entra user, and then you wouldn't even have to do something like this. You wouldn't have to ask for a connection. It would immediately know who you are and authenticate you. So those are things that we're working on and testing, but at the moment, this is the current process. The only thing is obviously the experience from here is just sometimes it's a little bit different. where you're not now seeing the actions that were being taken in terms of what it was busy with. This is more like a fire and forget and wait. But there are benefits to this. You can now also introduce or include your agents into your groups and things like that. So even from group chats, you could say, hey, at Raptor, um, can you whatever go fetch this information for me that I need for all of us to review, something like that. So you can get it to do that information. While we wait for that response to come back, so I just wanted to show you, I guess, an example that I had an app in here before. So, what insights can you provide me from this application? And it would go and analyze, and then based off of that information, return what sort of analytics and insights it could deduce from there. I love sometimes the conversations are great because now the thing is that you can really have these, you can have proper conversations around data that that you're familiar with, and you can have now further discussions where it's no longer this sort of question of like, how do I build this object in Qlik or anything like that. You can literally, as long as you have the data connected in Qlik Sense, have your discussion around the data source, build a data model, build the Qlik application, build your front end application, and then talk around the data, proper discussions around that data. Okay, and Teams is the very last thing that lets me down. I'm going to try from here quickly because okay, I'm sure it'll probably pop up in Teams just now as well. And now it's the get here. Okay, well, I'm busy with this. Are there any questions at all at the moment now? Yeah, so I'll show you here from the extensions and me playing a little bit, but yeah, we give it a little name. We give it Raptor, and then wherever, if you don't ask specifically to give it its own name, then it will use whatever's coming from that system that you wanted to create the object from. So then you just, and that's the nice thing is now you can talk to your agent again. Hey, this object, there's something wrong with it. And because it's JavaScript and AI choose JavaScript for breakfast, it can usually fix the problem then.
Sure. The other great case would be to do a skill. We're looking for that case where we can get into a bank or large enterprise where we can do proper fraud and, GRC, like your governance, risk, compliance, and finance type skills. So with a skill, you can teach it the compliance requirements and reporting requirements as well, because those are becoming more and more. So if you look at Sarbanes-Oxley 2026, you have some major reporting compliance, estate resets to a certain time, etc. Real cases, not show me anymore, do it, where you can now create a skill around this and then put those Java scripts, the names of the various visuals that you want to use in the skill. And when it generates the application, or when it improves the application, it'll stick to to the skill and to the visualizations you've put in there as a standard. So you do it once and then you just update it when the regulations update.
Well, at
Just
least I also managed to get the last. Sorry, it did manage to output just at the end. So we have I've been scrolling here for anyone who's been looking at the screen to see what the output is of that request sent through. Yeah, so now because the MCP is now connected to what do you call it, to Power Apps or to the Power Platform itself, you can actually utilize the MCP there as well to then schedule these things. These can be 8 a.m. things. You give it a standard prompt. You say this is the application, so on and so forth. This is what I want you to do. Go analyze the latest trends. KPIs, etc., and return me a report in this structure. And that's what it will then do every single morning, go and analyze, do the necessary selections, and then like this, what we're reading now, return your result back.
That's pretty cool. And then just from an admin point of view, Jess, you mentioned last time Raptor's admin capabilities. Can it also report back on like task reloads? Like if you give it a set of tasks, like for a
Mm-hmm.
department, and say every morning it must report which ones were successful and which ones were not, like in a table,
Yep.
would it be able to do something like that?
Yes, definitely. And you could even take it one step further and ask it to go fix the issue.
That's pretty awesome. And then a chatbot to publish your apps according to our standards that we need and generate checklists, and governance.
Yeah, so I mean that's all. The thing is, if it's dependent on how you go ahead and want to interact, or how you want an agent to interact with Raptor, whether it's through Copilot. So then the nice thing about obviously with Copilot is you can give it things like knowledge. So you can give your departmental knowledge as well. So not only do we give the instructions on how your agent itself interacts or how it should interact with Raptor successfully, you can also give it knowledge and even add to the instructions as well to help it so that when you say the query so that it knows that okay, every single time this is how you do it. You know, you want always this color, whatever it is. Yeah, you know, yes, you can then ask it to stick to those standards. But once again, that's from a co-pilot. Whereas now if you can use a codex, Claude Code, Claude Desktop thing, now you can work more in a project sort of folder environment that could be shared amongst the team so that all the team members have access to the same documentation, um, you know, always. And when they're working with their AI agents, it's always the latest documentation. This is my preferred method because this is kind of a little bit more controlled. This is, you know, you've got a structure here, you've got something to work with. The AI agent is obviously now something that works on a Microsoft environment or in their estate and that. So when you're doing these sorts of things, this is the kind of process I would follow then.